Have you ever tried to make a game before, or you've tried but you haven't really continued with the process? I have, and I'd like to share my story with you as to how I got into game development so you could kind of get an idea where I started, and that'll give you some idea of what to expect going forwards. Before we begin, if you have any questions regarding game development or the industry as a whole, then make sure to leave a comment below and I'll make sure to read them. Let's get into it.
Here we go!
Hey there, my name's Jordan and I make games for a living. I'm a freelance games developer. I mainly work for people abroad or just really people who want applications or games made for them. I've always been the creative kind. I've always tried to find a way to take everything that I want to do creatively and bundle that into outlets, whether it be art, whether it be drawing, painting, digital art, it be game development, music developing, or really just any of these different mediums. As a 13-14-year-old, I found Scratch. Obviously everybody starts off with Scratch. It is a little programming application that allows you to build quite complex stuff, but it's all visual based. I moved on from Scratch. I got into Game Maker, and Game Maker back then was primarily only 2D, I think. I made sure to dabble in these. I made sure to try out the tutorials, try making little games of them, and that went nowhere. I had no particular interest in 2D games, so I didn't really keep pursuing down that route. Fast forward 2-3 years and I go from 2D Game Maker Studio to 2D RPG Maker, which is obviously still 2D, but it's a lot more interesting for what I wanted to do. Back then, me and one of my friends at the time, we both said, okay, we're both going to give this a go. We both branched into two different areas. One worked on like world map generation and moving around, and I worked on the interior of cities. I worked on what towns look like, how the day-night cycle works. In the end, we created something that was very small, but it kind of taught a lot as to what we wanted. When you start off learning game development, or really any subject, you need to try dipping your toes into loads of different areas, seeing what you're good at, what you're bad at. For me, choosing to do RPG Maker, 2D Game Maker Studio was a really good way to understand that I wasn't into those sort of things. Fast forward a few years after that, and I came across Unity whilst in college. Now this is back when it's 4.5. That's where I found my interest in game development. I went from going from 2D to 3D, and 3D is a lot more fun and interesting for me. It doesn't require artistic skills in the grand scheme of things. You can get away with just understanding basic 3D modeling. Back then, I made a game following a tutorial by Game Grind. One of them was called Making a Simple Game in Unity. It's about moving a block through a little obstacle course similar to the Impossible game, the web game. It gave me a lot of ideas and ways to improve different elements of Unity in a nice compact tutorial, and with that I completed my first game. It wasn't particularly great, I didn't publish it anywhere, it was solely for college use, but I enjoyed it. Coming out of college is where I took a massive turn. Remember that thing I said about dipping your toes into different areas? Well, I decided not to pursue game development initially. I ended up going to university to do 3D modeling for games, animation for games, and see how my creative elements could kind of merge into the game design area. It took me half a year to decide that isn't what I wanted to do. I changed my course from 3D modeling for games to animation and visual effects, and a year later I changed again. It's okay not to know what you're going to do. It's okay not to know what you want to do or how you're going to get there. At the age of 19, I had no idea. And in the end, I ended up going back to programming. I changed my course twice, and on the second time, I changed back to games programming. It was what I should have done in the first place, but I learned a lot from swapping to different areas. I learned how to 3D model, how to animate, how to rig, texture, skin, all the different elements that kind of help solo developers and indie developers thrive in this kind of area. During all of this is when I made my first actual game as an adult, as someone who's actually trying to do games properly, and that was an archery game. It was the first complete thing I handed in and was like, look, I made this, I'm happy with this is what I want to do. It was a mess. The code, I revisited it recently, code was a mess. It lags horribly even though it's very low poly, but in order to make good things, you need to make bad things. You can't be scared that you're going to make bad things, because in the end, if you don't push yourself to make rubbish content and throw it out there for people to see, you'll never feel confident enough to throw out something that you might actually be good at. Following from that mess, I went into my final year of uni and I ended up doing an individual project and a group project. And both of these projects allowed me to own my skills in a way that I never thought I would. For my individual project, I went for a VR project and I made Kingdom Defense, which you've seen on a previous video. I was really proud of this, and that's my first like big project. It wasn't like a 1 month project for an assignment. It was like a 3-4 month, half a semester project. But that went really well. And pushing on to my final assignment was a group project. There were 4 of us in a team: animator, programmer, modeler, and we made Iron Core, which you can see here is a 2.5D shoot 'em up in the kind of style like Contra's, kind of what we were aiming for. With these 2 games set in motion, my university, this is what I got out of it. I still use these pieces for portfolio. Going back to the beginning in terms of where do you start, everyone starts somewhere different. Some people have more facilities to do this than others. But honestly, read books about it, go to your library, go to any place you can that would allow you to get a little piece of software. Even on a rubbish laptop, Unity will run. Make basic games. Make stuff like Space Invaders, make stuff like Pong, and all these arcade games that are the staple of what we have built upon. From that, you can kind of get a good idea to what you want to go into. I've been doing 6 years of this, and in those freelance projects, in the freelance years, I was horrific at the beginning. The code I wrote was horrible, and I'm constantly learning. I'm always learning about new stuff that I could be working on. Game development is a lot of work. Game development requires you to pick apart different parts of the industry. You need to know how models work together, music, sound effects, visual effects, all these different pieces combine into one cohesive game. Since I finished university, I've had the luxury that most people don't, where I get to work on a variety of different projects for a variety of different clients. I've built up a portfolio of things that I've built and things I've built for clients. Kind of want to give you just a brief rundown of the kind of things that I've done. Here is a small part of the projects that I've worked on over the last 3 years. Space Monkey, endless mobile runner game similar to Subway Surfers. Slime's Adventure, a 2D platformer hell which is soul crushing. Subsurfers, a endless runner prototype that was done within about a week. Chaos Tower Defense, a game jam about creating tower defense with multiple movable towers. Job Interview, a 2.5D platformer using buttons for movement and interactions. Flip Runner, a level-based ragdoll running game. Just Push It, a mobile puzzle pusher game. Mathematic platformer was a Roblox ripoff teaching maths to children online. That was quite a few. To be honest, a lot of them took a long time to make. Some were better than others, some were worse than others, but this is how development is. And if you want to get into game development, it's all about iteration. Making lots of bad games to get to the good games that you're truly happy with. For those of you who are new to the industry or you've been in it for like the last year, keep at it. Honestly, it helps greatly when you know that there are other people out there who have done just that, just persistence. I want to inspire people to make games, and if you do have any questions, I want you to drop them in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't typically do talking videos like this, but I want to make them more frequent. They're more interesting in terms of sharing my point of view on things. And with that, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.